Welcome to the Itty Bitty Podcast. I'm your host, Perry Phillips, and because I've killed so many brain cells, I feel like I'm getting dumber as I'm getting older. So the podcast is a great way to learn more about the things that I love. So each week we take a look at topics from the world of pop culture, including music, shout out to hip hop, movies, sports, comic books, video games, psychedelics, cannabis, and more. And the format might not always remain the same from week to week. I'm all over the place, what can I say? And I love the idea of a podcast that changes and grows with our listeners. So before we get too far, if you're listening so far, head over to ittybittypodcast.com to subscribe to the show on the platform of your choice, and make sure to say hi to us on social media. It's pretty much at Itty Bitty Podcast for everything. But without further ado, man, the Itty Bitty Podcast is anything but itty bitty. So let's get it going. And just like that, we're on to episode 39 of the Itty Bitty Podcast. My guest this week is Phoenix Carnevale. You've probably seen her in fitness videos. She does MMA, broadcasting, acting. So she stopped by to do a episode with me. It was a shorter episode than usual. We had some time constraints. I actually had some technical issues, so I'm going to tell a quick story. My cord was having some issues. I didn't think it was the cord, though. I thought it was, people getting notifications, and that was causing some crackling on my sound. And my wife was like, "No, it's your cord." And I went back and forth like this for a couple weeks. And finally, I realized that, it was the cord, and I should have listened to my wife. So it's a little quick sidebar. We talked fitness during the quarantine. We talked about hip hop, and we talked about Indiana Jones. It was a great interview. We fit a lot into a compact episode, so check it out. Appreciate you guys checking us out each week. And this is not a podcast about fitting pop culture references into your workout. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's anything but, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. The Itty Bitty Podcast.
All right, Phoenix, thanks for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us on the Itty Bitty Podcast. So a lot of people right now are out of work. They're not doing the usual routines that they're used to. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fitness, a little bit about pop culture, a little bit about hip hop. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of your background in what you do?
Wow, that's such a hard thing to compartmentalize, but I guess the easiest way to say it is that I'm in broadcasting. I've been a certified personal trainer through National Academy of Sports Medicine for 18 years now, and I've also worked in mixed martial arts as a commentator and a reporter and an interviewer, and I've done a lot of acting work as well. Been on a few TV shows, a couple commercials, done some comedy and things like that. So everything is either working out, talking about working out, acting, or talking to people who are training. So it's a lot of microphones and cameras and weights and boxing gloves and all that type of stuff.
So how has all this new stuff happening with COVID-19 and everybody having to stay inside, how has that affected you as far as your fitness goes and as far as on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think, there are certainly things that you can do at home, and there's a lot of those things that are thriving right now. And you really can learn a lot about your body when you don't have the outside sources of the gym or, to zone out in a spin class when you're like, okay, I have to make myself have a proficient workout in a small space with very little equipment. It's a great learning experience. And I know that this is depressing and there's a lot of ways to be upset right now, but I always try to find the positive because a lot of the stuff that we're upset about is out of, our control. Obviously I do some personal training as well, and it's tough not to physically see my clients or to be able to touch them and say, all right, this here is the muscle where you want to be feeling it, or to give them an adjustment. So what you do is you learn how to be a better verbal communicator, right? And how to give better verbal cues. And that's one thing that I think everybody can learn from, whether they're a trainer or not, is working on their communication, since they don't have the ability to touch or have anything like that right now. So where there's a will, there's a way. You can always make a good workout. And Amazon has like this little package. It's $45, and it's everything from like mini bands to larger bands to slides to jump ropes. So you can pretty much do everything you need to do for less than $50.
So for podcasting, it's kind of similar as far as like doing the remote podcasts are they're awkward, and a lot of times it can be like, once you get into it, it's not that bad. But for me, I was already started on the path of like, I should do these first and then get better at that before I start doing more in-person interviews for podcasting, just because you get better at it the more that you do it. And I noticed when we do like Zoom happy hours with our family and friends, it's not as awkward anymore, and it's almost like a fun little thing that we do a couple times a week now.
Yeah.
So there definitely are positives to everything that's going on. So the reason I had originally reached out to you, though, was you make a lot of pop culture references. And so on this show, we celebrate a lot of different people who like pop culture, you might not necessarily know they like pop culture, or like hip hop artists, or all types of stuff. So as far as pop culture references go, has that always been something that you've incorporated into your workouts?
Yeah, I think, there's many ways that people learn, and there's focused learning, and then there's diffused learning. And diffused learning is when you learn something in a more relaxed fashion, when you learn something because somebody's telling you a story, or use mnemonics that help you memorize things. So I use pop culture as a mild distraction from what you're doing to make things more fun and to keep people engaged. And plus, my brain just works like that. If I see something, I immediately reference it to my favorite movies or songs or comic books or things like that. But I also find that it's really helpful that if you're doing something very difficult, if somebody gives you a reference or a mnemonic, it makes you remember it better. Then I don't know, it just sticks in your brain. It's a diffused way to learn things. It's a more relaxed way to learn things, and it keeps you engaged.
That makes sense. I mean, that's like a easier way to learn things. I'm somebody who likes visual aids, and so yeah, when you say something looks like Wolverine, I'm gonna know,
Exactly.
So as far as hip hop goes, I know that you're a hip hop fan. You make some Wu-Tang references. I'm a big Wu-Tang fan. I missed out on a Wu-Tang concert last year. I went to it and then got kicked out before the opener. So that was like my
Oh no.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that, but it wasn't for anything. Like, I wasn't being reckless or anything like that. It was really stupid, but so yeah, I got kicked out, and I didn't even get to see Wu-Tang, and I heard the opener was dope. And so yeah, have you ever seen Wu-Tang live?
A few times.
A few times. That would have
Not
been
in the last maybe like 10 years, but I've definitely seen them a few times. For me, Wu-Tang was a big deal because they were very different, and they had incorporated sound effects and things from the kung fu movies that I grew up on. So I had already loved hip hop because I like lyrics and poetry and like very, very interesting writing and wordplay. So I loved hip hop, and then for them to merge all the old kung fu movies that I loved, I was like, oh my God, who is this group? And I've like loved them ever since. I even have a Wu-Tang tattoo on my left wrist. Mm-hmm.
Are there any newer artists that you're listening to right now that you like, that like for hip hop?
Yeah, I like Travis Scott a lot. Let me see. I still love Childish Gambino. A really big fan of Childish Gambino. Um, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, it's not as it was in the '90s where I listened to it all the time. But I like Vince Staples. I listen to Vince
Vince
Staples.
Staples is really good.
Yeah, Run the Jewels.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of those types of groups.
Yeah, the like the more energy focused hip hop stuff, the higher energy.
Energy, like good lyricism. I can't really take it when there's like a curse word every other line, you know. I like J. Cole a lot too.
I
It's just
hadn't
stuff that's so smart, that could be smart as well.
I hadn't realized that Method Man like stopped cursing on his records from like 2010 on or something crazy like that. Like he stopped cursing in his music, and I hadn't even noticed. And I've listened to a few of his albums since then, and had no idea. But
Yeah, he definitely doesn't get enough credit for how good of an MC he is, and I'm just a really big Method Man fan.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so let me see. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit since we were talking a little bit about, we jump all over the place on this show. I'm just all over the
Oh,
place.
that's okay. That's totally fine.
Uh,
That's a good conversation.
Hold on, give me 1 second. I don't know what's going on. There's some feedback coming through here. I usually don't.
Okay.
All right, I think I'm good. Okay. All right. So we were talking a little bit about like COVID-19 and how it's kind of changing with everything that's going on. I actually talked to a friend who's a spin instructor in
Hmm.
Alaska. And so he was talking about how, he's been having to do classes, virtual classes as well. And so it's kind of hard when you don't have a lot of equipment. So what are some tips that you have for people as far as how they can utilize technology to, you know, kind of jumpstart their workout? I've been fortunate. Like I say this now because everything's been going on, but my listeners know my story. I'm very lucky in that I was fired from a job in like November, a job that I hated,
Hmm.
and now it's like everything has happened. I'm already on unemployment, and now they're extending unemployment and stuff. So it's like everything just kind of worked out. My wife's pregnant. She's due in July, so hopefully she's on maternity leave before all this stuff is like too crazy. She's a nurse, so she's like right there with everything going on. And so I've been kind of in this routine already where I've been making sure that I work out every day. So what are some tips that you can give for people to getting them to, maybe start a routine for working out with everything, with all this new downtime that some people have?
There are so many great apps that you can follow that have really good programs with very credible instructors. So one, for example, is Daily Burn, which is, I guess, how you found me. And Daily Burn is online, and it has a huge library of pretty much everything from Pilates to kickboxing to, strength training. So there's Daily Burn. There's also Mixed Fitness. You would purchase the bike and the equipment, and they have a library of things free. And on YouTube is Pop Sugar Fitness. There are so many things that you can follow along with. And then there's also trainers that are working from home right now. Like, for example, I had a friend of mine today send me, I did a postural assessment. I just had him stand in front of his camera at a bunch of different angles. I gave him a full postural assessment, and I work out with him once every other day, and and teach him what to do straight through Skype. And there's plenty of trainers at home right now that have good setups that will work out with you or do a fitness assessment and give you a personalized workout. It really just depends on what your budget is. But free, you can go online, Pop Sugar. If you feel like spending a little bit of money, not too expensive, I think Daily Burn is like $15-20 a month. You can join something like that. And then I do not know the name of the set, but it's a $45 set where you can get TheraBands and mini bands and sliders and medicine balls, and literally just throw them in your closet and whip them out when you need to. Jump rope would probably cost you $10. I mean, there's so much that you can do. There really are no excuses right now. The only people who are having a really hard time are people with little kids that have to be on top of them, every second of the day. Usually what I tell them is like, that's the time you pop them in front of the TV and you go work out in the corner, when you
Right.
put on Frozen 2 or something. But, you have to make weight. You have to kind of find the time and create it into your schedule. During the quarantine, the thing that I found the most helpful is treating myself like I'm in school.
Hmm.
So if I get up at 9, I, make breakfast, walk the dog, then the first thing I'm going to do is I'll spend the first hour answering emails. Then I'm going to work out for an hour and a half. Then when I'm finished with that, I'm going to study something for an hour or so. Then when I'm done with that, I'll do this. Then I'll start making dinner. So you put yourself on a schedule. So the monotony of the boredom of feeling like it's Groundhog's Day doesn't get to you so much because you put yourself on a schedule. And that seems to help very much. And you find, okay, I did cardio yesterday. Today I'm going to do weight training, with my TheraBands. The next day I'll do a kickboxing. The day after that, I'll lift again. The day after that, maybe you'll throw in a yoga, and you can put yourself on a weekly schedule. It also gives you something to look forward to. Like that 1 hour where you exercise, where you have a funny instructor or a workout program that you like, or something that challenges you. That's like an hour a day that's you time, that you get to sweat and feel good and get your endorphins up and not think about the craziness that's happening right now. Plus, the best way to stay safe is to be healthy. We know who's the most vulnerable right now. It's not saying that somebody young and healthy can't get it, but it's not as likely. So I think that it's so important, and it's not just about vanity. It should never be. We all want to look good for sure, but it's also about feeling good. And when you feel good, then you can look good. So I think my number one tip is to design a schedule for yourself and find a program you like. I wouldn't go take a class with an instructor that I don't like, so I wouldn't put on a video of something that I wouldn't want to do.
Right. Yeah, and I definitely recommend Daily Burn. Like you said, that's how I found you. And there's tons of workouts on there. We've been doing it. We live in the sticks, and so it's like there's the closest gym for me is 30 to 40 minutes away. And
Yeah.
when I was working an hour and a half away. And so just having to make the drive from work, and then it just wasn't working for me. So to have it at home, to do it, in the morning before, or to do it at night when I get home, it's a great tool for, especially right now that they're doing free stuff. What is it? Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's important too to remember how certain companies act and how people act during all this stuff. The companies that are giving things away for free are the companies that I think people should probably stick with afterwards, and the companies that are gouging people for money are probably the companies that you should avoid after this is all said and done. But that's just a little
Yeah.
side note.
If everybody's going through it right now, everybody's struggling right now too. I think Daily Burn is free for at least 30 days, at least.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. I mean, I don't get anything out of telling people to join. I don't get a commission or anything. I just really believe in it because working for them, I know that their heart's in the right place.
Right. No, I've always been a big fan of them, and I've done, I've tried Beachbody before, and I've tried other programs and stuff, and I've always gone back to Daily Burn. But yeah, so, and again, this is not a sponsor or anything like that, just a fan of them. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit. Like I said, my daughter's coming around July, and so I grew up, I'm not like a fighter or anything like that. I grew up getting beat up until, you were old enough. I grew up in Massachusetts, and you grew up getting beat up until you were old enough to fight back, basically. And then you just learned, you knew enough to not get beat up on a regular basis. So my plan is to eventually take self-defense once my daughter's old enough, especially with everything that's going on. It's just nice to know that, you have that confidence or whatever in your back pocket. So what are some ways to kind of obviously if she's not interested in it, she's not interested in it, and that's a ways down the road. But what are some ways to kind of get into self-defense or MMA type classes for younger people?
Well, the biggest thing I think is they have to feel a place out. And with kids, they can be fickle. I have friends that have been in martial arts since they're really young, and they wanted to quit like 15 times because kids want to do that sometimes.
Right.
But they've also love it, and they're so glad that they did it too. You don't really want to force a kid, but you also want to teach good habits too on sticking with things. I think it's about finding a happy medium. And even if somebody just like, hey, listen, I'm really not into this, that's fine. You should take a self-defense class every couple of months or several times a year, just to kind of keep your knowledge up, and to also, I think, for not just important for women, but important for everybody, to realize that they are important and valuable, and they can fight for themselves and they can fend for themselves. in a smart way, of course. If somebody asks me for my wallet, I'm going to give you my wallet. I'm not going to fight you. I'm only going to fight when I have to fight back, when I am protecting myself. So you do want to learn self-defense, but you want to also learn how to de-escalate situations as well. So self-defense is not just a physical part, it's also a mental part. Not freezing in a situation, knowing when to run, knowing when to diffuse a situation verbally. There's a lot of different components to what comes into self-defense. When it comes to joining martial arts, I always say that finding a martial arts school is like finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You sometimes have to try out a couple of places until you figure out who you're the most comfortable with, where you want to spend your time, who you care enough about to deal with the hardships with, right? Like just like in a relationship, somebody does something like that's a deal breaker. Martial arts is hard. It can be hard on the body, and it's humbling sometimes when you feel awkward and you're having a hard time learning something. So, but when you love somebody or you're comfortable with somebody, you will be like, all right, that was not the best day, but I feel better that I learned. I feel better that I tried. So sometimes it's about kind of picking and choosing and finding the right art for you. There are so many martial arts. Everyone says, which one should I do? And I'm like, well, which one do you like? That's like me telling you what type of ice cream you should eat.
Right.
You have to find what feels right for you. Now, of course, some are more practical than others. Jiu-jitsu is a very practical art, but of course, jiu-jitsu takes place mostly on the ground, even though they will teach you self-defense. Muay Thai is a beautiful art. It's great striking. Kung Fu are a little bit more form-wise. They're not necessarily what you would use in combat, but they all have great value and great purpose. So I usually just tell people it's definitely a matter of taste.
So it's just something that you think people should kind of research and then maybe take a class or two and kind of check it out. Or what about you?
Oh,
like YouTube?
give it a try. YouTube too. You can Google things and take a look, and you want to make sure that whoever's videos you're watching, you find incredible instructors also. Because there's a lot of crazy people out there that put stuff up on YouTube. So research is important. Research is definitely important, but it is definitely an acquired taste. You have to figure out which ones that you like. But self-defense is something I think everybody should be kind of aware of. And there are great self-defense videos on there that are very credible. If you look up the Gracies, there are people that I can definitely say, like Daniel Gracie is somebody I can say that if you watch him and his wife put up self-defense videos, they're the most logical, most practical, and probably the techniques that are tried and true.
Awesome. So let's do, because I know you don't have too much time, but let's do a couple of random pick ones.
Cool. I love these.
So franchise to binge through the quarantine. You can pick one, and that's the only franchise you can watch. But you can do like, if they've got cartoons, movies. So like, let's say you pick Star Wars, you can pick all the Star Wars movies plus any of the cartoons and all that stuff. So you can pick one franchise.
All right. I'm not going to say Star Wars right now because I was a little upset with the last two. So I'll say everybody should watch the first 3 Indiana Joneses.
Well, you'd also have to take the last Indiana Jones too, because you're
right.
taking all of it.
The first 3. I could watch the last Indiana Jones if I get up and make a sandwich during certain stupid scenes. But I would watch all 4 just because I like Harrison Ford.
What do you think of I've heard rumors that there's going to be a new Indiana Jones without Harrison Ford.
If Harrison Ford's not in it, it's not Indiana Jones.
Okay. I mean, it's one of my favorite movies of all time too. So I'm a huge fan of Indiana Jones.
And I'm surprised that I said Indiana Jones first because Rocky. I love all the Rocky movies. I even like Rocky 5. I don't even call Creed. I call it Rocky 7 and 8. It's Rocky all day. I can watch any Rocky movie at any time.
At least that you're giving yourself a little bit more content. This one you're giving yourself like 4 or 5 hours max.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Yeah, you can watch all the Rockies. I never get sick of them.
All right. Let's do. Let's pick one. Excluding 36 Chambers. One album to listen to throughout the entire quarantine, and that's it.
Oh, that's so hard. That is so hard. One album.
Just one. Yeah, you can only listen to one.
Ah. I don't know. Just one album. You know what? I'm the first thing that came to my mind just now is the Black Album. Jay-Z's The Black Album.
So the Black Album.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would say
that's
that.
a good choice. I know some
Yeah.
listeners that would be happy with that choice. Okay, so one superhero that you would want to hang out with throughout the quarantine. They would be like
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
Wolverine or Deadpool, because I know Deadpool would make me laugh.
Yeah, Wolverine would probably just like not want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
He'd be annoyed by having to be stuck with you. Like not just you in general, just anybody.
Just everybody. Yeah.
So Deadpool would be fun though. You'd be guaranteed to have some laughs for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd hang out with Deadpool.
So that's all I have for the random. I just had 3 of them this week.
Those are good.
Yeah, we always I like to mix it up and do those throughout the podcast at a certain point. So, why don't we? It's getting close to that time that I know you said you had something to do. So why don't you tell everybody if you have anything that you want to make anybody aware of, like if you have anything that you think our listeners should check out, point them in that direction, and then just let everybody know where they can find you on social media and all that stuff.
Well, if this comes out before Monday, what's the date of Monday? Monday is the 13th. I will be on Daily Burn's Instagram Live with a free workout, obviously for 30 minutes, and pop star JoJo will be joining me. She'll be working out with me. So come join us for a free 30-minute workout on Instagram Live on Daily Burn's page, and everybody can follow me on Instagram as well. I always put up content, and I'll be putting up more fitness-related content and answering questions, and I do a lot of martial arts and mixed martial arts stuff as well. So I'm all over the internet.
All right. Well, Phoenix, thanks for taking the time to hang out and chat with me today. Appreciate it. Everybody else, I'll talk to you next week. This will actually be out a week from Tuesday. So
Okay.
Yeah, I have these guys on Instagram. They're a father and son duo, and they make like custom comic book characters, like action figures. So they'll do mashups of like the Hulk and Wolverine and all types of stuff, and Deadpool. So, but yeah. Anyway, Phoenix, thanks again. Stay safe. Appreciate you taking the time, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for tuning into the Itty Bitty Podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and share as always. And check out our Hotbox hotline for Choice Nugs only. It's 702-907-TOKE. You can leave a message and we'll play that on the show. Next week on the show, I believe we're going to be talking to a video game creator. So I'm hoping everything works out. We're supposed to be doing the interview later this week. And if you guys are a fan of Maniac Mansion, then you'll be a fan of this video game. So I'm excited to talk to them. They'll be hanging out with us for the next episode. Everybody stay safe and tune in next week.